Hey everyone, welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the podcast where we explore the strategies for the growth, resilience, and the transformation in all aspects of life and the business. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is packed with the practical insights that could revolutionize the way you approach business development. And joining me is the dynamic Devin Sizemore. So, welcome to the show, Devin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lovely, lovely. So Devin, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Devin isn't just a serial entrepreneur. He is a master connector with a superpower for making high impact connections that lead to the massive business opportunities. So, as the creator of the Connection Expansion System and the author of Connection Expansions, you are one connection away from massive success. So, Devin has worked with over 600 businesses, helping them scale through effective systems and sustainable growth strategies. So, whether you are a solopreneur looking to scale or a seasoned business owner seeking to regain control of your growth, then this conversation will give you the tools to achieve 100x the results. So, Devin, welcome to the show.
So excited. Yeah, sounds like we're gonna have a fun conversation.
Exactly, lovely. So David, your journey from launching a marketing agency out of a college to creating the multiple successful businesses is definitely inspiring. So if you can share what first sparked your passion for building the meaningful connections and uh, why they are the key to the business development.
Yeah, the it was born out of a passion and necessity first. And then I think you become addicted to the process, right? When you see the results. But as a business owner, I think we all struggle to scale our business in a predictable way without competing and getting stuck in the rat race of who's better. I find that no one really wins in that space. And so that's where the art of connections became a focus is it's something I could control. And it's something that allowed me to focus on the positive every day instead of getting stuck in the rat race and talking bad about competitors. It was more about how do I grow my own network strategically, tap into my current contacts strategically, and then get that network to produce results, which then fuels all the different businesses I've had from the marketing agency to a cat cafe to coaching and consulting. And so that's what drives me. And then my true pure passion in life is to help others. And at the fundamental level of making connections and building a strategic network, the only way to do it successfully is to help others. So taking this need to stand out and be separate along with this passion and drive for helping others, it's a really good win-win formula. And it allows you for business growth. It allows you to build predictable revenue and all the other things you want in business.
Understood, understood. And like, was there a specific connection or the breakthrough moment that made you realize the power of networking and relationships in the business success?
Yeah. So as I was going through making connections, what I realized is a lot of people keep count. So that's the first part is right. Like you may be sitting there listening, going like, I don't want to make connections and referrals because I'm going to give more than I receive, which is a true statement. Like you probably will never get a one-to-one return.
Hmm.
And so I struggled with that as well. Like I was trying to keep score and like benchmark relationships. And what I found is when I stopped doing that and just got back to building relationships, actually caring about others, being innately curious and asking good questions, what I started to see happen is the outcome from my meetings was significantly better. So instead of going into these meetings with an agenda and a goal, I just went in genuinely curious and I focused on again controlling what I can control, which was following up quickly, making 2 to 3 connections with every person I meet, teaching my network to do what I want. And what that results in over time is about 35 to 40% of the connections I send, I'm going to receive. And so if I send 100 in a month, I'm going to get 30 to 40 connections back. And so now it gives me this predictable metric. And so when I had my marketing agency, I had a couple aha moments in there where I started to see this happening. And then the other part of that was shifting my ask. And so often when I ask business owners, who do you want to connect with? They answer with their ideal client profile. But what that does is it sets us up to fail because you're now asking me to refer someone to you so you can sell to them, which creates a lot of friction and tension in the introduction. Plus, I have to find someone who has the right need at the right time and you are a fit. Instead, we could ask for people who have access to our clients, and then there's no friction. So that's strategic introductions, JV opportunities, speaking engagements, podcast events, all these other places where there's no friction. It's easy to say, like, look, I do great business with business CPAs. What business CPAs do you know? And all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, I'd love to connect you to my CPA, because again, there's no sale happening. So the kind of two journeys of seeing what it was like to get rid of all the expectations in meetings and shifting my ask to a more strategic ask is where I started to really see results coming in. And my calendar was consistently, and still is consistently, full with zero cold calls, zero marketing, zero outreach.
Hmm. Understood. And also, like, and I have to say that you develop the connection expansion system, which helps generate the predictable referrals. So, what inspired you to create a scalable system?
Yeah, so every time I do anything in business, I always approach it with I don't want to be the rock star, right? Like I want to get myself out of a job as fast as I can. And so that applies to this system as well. Like if I'm going to build and develop a system, I want it to be something that a college kid can implement or a billionaire and both see results and success. And so 5 years ago, when I really focused in on this system and said, hey, I'm going to actually document it all, the scripts, the follow up, the process, I'm going to monitor and get all the metrics and really create something that's a machine. I wanted to then do it in a way that I could teach others to do it. Because I feel like when you can get to the art of teaching, that's when you know you're starting to master something. And so as I started teaching hundreds and hundreds of business professionals and sales professionals how to use the system, it allowed me to master the process, which then made it better for everyone I was teaching, which then led to the release of the book, which shares everything. Like the book literally is the whole system, all the scripts, all the follow up, the best practices, the mentality. And it's something now that I'm excited to share with the world because I do believe that if you get back to controlling the stuff you can control, which in a lot of marketing and business development, there's a lot of things you can't control, it really puts you back in the driver's seat of your business. And when you're in that seat, that's where you can work normal hours. Your business is an actual business. You're not working a job. It gives you back that balance and control that a lot of people crave in their business. And this is one tool that has helped me to do that over the years. And thus, I wanted to share it with everybody else.
That's really awesome, I have to say. And also, like, what are some of the common mistakes that you see business owners make when trying to build a referral-based growth strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question and the little chuckle because it's something I talk to business owners a lot about. Typically, when we talk about the truth around it, right? The first thing is everybody wants more word of mouth or referral business. Like it's everyone loves it. They're preferred clients, they're teed up, you're already edified, easy to close. And so most referral strategies go down this path, which I call the referral dilemma, where we start asking our existing client base to refer us more clients. And then we slip right back into the problem I talked about earlier, where we are asking our network to refer us to people that we could then sell. And so, a quote I recommend everyone writes down, I have it on a post-it note on my monitor and desk is everybody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold. We are in a consumer society, yet we try to force sales so much. And so, it's the same with the referral world. We're so focused on asking for people to refer us clients that we're only getting a really small percent. The best business strategies only return 5% of your active client base referring you business. Only 5%. I don't know what industry you're in. 5% is horrible. So if that's the best metric for referrals, that's why we have to change it, right? So instead of just going after clients, asking for clients, we could go after clients, but we could ask them for additional things, right? Hey, again, business attorneys have access to a lot of my clients. So I could go to my client base and say, hey, what business attorneys do you know? I do great work with them. I'd love to collaborate with them. And then we could connect on that. And so you got to shift your ask and you may have to stop just going on clients chasing clients. Like that strategy, it does work. And yes, do it in certain ways. If a client is hot and they're ready to advocate, ask for it then, but just know that the best system there returns a 5% result.
Understood, understood. And I have to say this that this is such a valuable insight, especially the idea of predictability in referrals. Definitely. So too often businesses rely on um, chance rather than the strategy. So yeah, and also like scaling a business requires more than just connections. So it also demands strong systems. So how do you balance building relationships with developing the internal systems that support sustainable growth?
Yeah, so for this, the connection system has its own system and process, but there's a couple real keys I found over the years to success when it comes to system development. When we had our cat cafe, it's a great example of building really good systems from day one. It's an industry I'd never done business in myself. I've consulted in it, and we ended up selling the business to an employee in 6 months. And so, in order to transition a business in 6 months to someone else, the systems have to be perfect. Like there's no negotiating. And so I always think about what is the client journey first, right? What journey does the client go on with my business, right? From the very first marketing touch point all the way through nurturing them long term and adding value and loving on the client forever so that they return. And then what is my employee's journey, right? So from the first interview to them showing up to work, what do I need to empower them? And so I go and document and think about the client journey and the team journey. And I make sure that both of those journeys are fully documented. So when a client shows up, they know what to expect. When they onboard with us, there's clear expectations. The team then knows, hey, the client's going through this moment. Here's exactly how you support that moment. And then all of that is task managed. And so when we can build a task level management
Yeah.
system, that means we understand it enough to be able to develop that system. And so then we manage everything at the task level in our CRM or project management tool. And so client journey, team journey, and then matching the tasks with both journeys, and the more you can document it, the more transparent it is, the more videos, photos, how to checklists. Again, the easier it is to scale a business, and all expectations are equal for the client and for your team.
So, I was just wondering, like, you have built the businesses across a variety of industries, including the marketing, consulting, manufacturing, even a cat cafe. I really love that. So, how do you approach business development differently in each industry, or is there a common framework that you apply?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer two ways. Maybe this will be valuable for the listeners. So, first, I think good business is good business regardless of industry. And
Uh-huh.
so, I approach business with 5 pillars. So I look at my product first, right? So what am I selling? Is it clearly defined? Do I understand my price points, the benefit statements that go with it, and the features that go along with it?
Sure.
From there, I go to process, right? So that's exactly what we talked about. Like, what's the process to support the sales there? What's the pipeline? So, how I'm going to market and sell the product. So, marketing, right? Brand awareness or direct conversion metrics. And then, how I'm going to onboard the client, whether it's a B2C business or a B2B business, two different experiences. One's very transactional and quick, one's more of a nurture cycle. Then I look at profit. So I'm looking at like, are my margins predictable? Are my costs under control? And then I'm looking at people, right? What are the people and team dynamics that are going to support the processes that support the client or the product, right? So I look at all businesses in the 5 pillars, and then I just refine the 5 pillars to match the business. And then what I find is the bigger and stronger your network is, and if you have the ability to book a lot of meetings quickly, you can pretty much move the needle in any business because it allows you to fill your calendar and start working your network for more introductions and referrals. Again, the Cat Cafe is such an interesting example because in that business, we launched it in 45 days, we sold it after 6 months. Both of those things for a full retail coffee shop are not normal. but we were
Mm.
able to accomplish them by having really streamlined systems and a super robust network that we could tap into to help us drive that forward. So always looking at the 5 pillars of business and how to optimize each of those. And then 100% of the time leaning on the network to support whatever project or growth strategy we're implementing.
Wow. Amazing, I have to say. And I think many listeners will take inspiration from your adaptability across industries. That is very, very important and very powerful as well. So, in your book, Connection Expansion, you emphasize that one connection can create massive success. So, if you can share a story of connection that led to a major breakthrough for you or a client.
Yeah, I love it. So I have a list in the book and I
Mhm.
usually read it off, but I'll just give you some
Okay.
examples. So it's funny. I have like 20 bullet points and there's about 120 of them I've documented over the years from what people have shared.
Yeah.
And the list is fun because the typical response would be like, yes, I met this amazing person and it was a 7-figure client. Great. Yeah, that happens. But there's a lot of sneaky things that have happened through connections. And I had one client who landed a 6-figure job offer with no competition
Mhm.
because of their network in one meeting they took. I had a college student land a dream internship that they ended up getting a long-term job in, which then ended up in an industry that they now have a business in, all through one meeting and one referral, one connection. I've had, again, these 7-figure businesses where I get referred to someone where it's not even a referral to do business. And then we connect enough dots, nurture over time. And fast forward now, even as we're on, I just got a text from my biggest client. He was a connection. That was one introduction. And when I met with him the first time, you would never have thought that this was the wealthiest client I would ever do business with. We met at one of his motels. We went in his office. It wasn't anything fancy. Come to find out, the guy's worth hundreds of millions of dollars and owns 100+ properties. All of these are just one connection. And the reason I titled that as the subtitle is we often limit who we connect to because of assumptions we're making about the connection, beliefs about the value this person may or may not bring to us, but you never know which one of those connections is going to unlock something or what their spouse does or their family does or who they know. So you have to, again, remain curious and just have open and honest conversations because you don't know. You don't know which one of those connections could change your life.
Exactly. Very true. And yeah, I really love that. And what advice would you give to someone who feels like they don't have the network to achieve their goals?
Another great question. Yeah. I would bet
Mhm.
everyone on here knows someone, right? You probably have one friend. If you're in the business world, there's probably, you've got a handful of connections somewhere. I would assume there's people in your network right now that you probably haven't talked to in a while that you could get to go to coffee with you or hop on a Zoom meeting. If that's a true
Mhm.
statement, you can succeed because all it takes is one meeting. Because in one meeting, if you ask really good questions and you reconnect with the person, you understand what their motives and goals are, and then you add value to them following the meeting, right? So you make connections, you provide resources, and then you nurture them long term, you'll start to see the system work. Now, if that's not a true statement, you go, Devin, I don't know anyone, I'm just starting. Fantastic. Then you need to get to a networking event, right? Whether it's a virtual networking event, a summit, an in person networking event, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, you've got to go out somewhere and you've got to meet someone. When you go to the events, have a set series of questions, meet everyone, don't judge anyone, get their business card, and then we're going to follow up forever, right? We're going to book meetings and we're going to just genuinely ask about the other person. Again, we're not here to sell our stuff unless they ask, right? If you're a realtor and the person you're talking to says, I want to buy a house, then please, right, sell them a house. But other than that, you got to network to
Yeah,
meet some new people and we got to put them through a process. Or if you have a current network, you have to get some meetings on the calendar because that's where you're going to have an opportunity to redevelop the network and succeed.
exactly. Lovely. Yeah. And then also on this, like business owners often struggle with the time management while uh, trying to network, develop systems, and uh, run their day-to-day operations. So, what time management strategies do you personally use to stay effective?
Yeah, so a lot of tips on this because I think it's a really important topic. And as a business owner, we're really good at putting out fires. And we're not really good at being proactive. We're even if we're intentional about it, those things tend to get pushed down the list. So the first is you have to time block your week for success. So for me, that's typically Monday mornings and Friday afternoons. I give myself time to catch up inside of my scheduled work week to make sure that I am following up, I'm nurturing, I'm doing my task management, I'm doing all the things. So you have to time block and then you have to protect that time. You can't let your team override that time, your spouse override that time, or clients override that time. You have to act like you're out of the office and truly give yourself permission to just focus on your own stuff. Sometimes you have to work early or late. And so if you're a morning person, I love getting to the office before the team. If you need to have a catch up hour or two, it's a great way to work before the world comes back at you. If you're a night person, again, after you put the kids to bed and you're done with the family time, getting back on the computer and having a couple hours, a power hour then to catch up, really important. But what I find with those times is make sure you schedule them. So if you look at this week and you go, man, I've got 20 meetings this week and 2 events and a lot of networking, then I know next week I need to start protecting some time, right? Or one night this week or one morning this week, I need to protect time. So that would be the first tip is to time block and or give yourself some power hours, looking at your calendar and knowing where you're going to struggle. The other thing is all my clients, I recommend every 90 days, you do a 2 week time tracking. As business owners, we don't do this. We just show up and we perform. I don't believe that the more you work, the better. I think that you should be very strategic with the time worked and you should spend time living and time with your family. I think it's really critical. And so, what I recommend is you track it all. Every single task you're working on, when you shift, I want you to track it. I want you to log it. I want you to get really transparent with yourself and honest about what are you spending time on? Is your team wasting time in questions that could have been emails? Are you working on tasks that someone on your team should be working on, but you haven't developed the process for it? Like, what are the things that are actually taking up those 1 hour you work a day to 16 hours? Hopefully not, but that's the reality for some people. You got to time track, and then we need to get the stuff off of your plate to people who are way better at doing it than you. And I will promise you, if you're building your team correctly, everything on that list your team is better at doing than you, except maybe business development.
Understood. So, Devin, you
Yep.
there?
Can you hear me?
Lovely, lovely. So, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah. So, amazing. And also, like, if you can share, like, looking ahead, you have set a goal of fostering 1 million connections that create the lasting change. So, what does that vision mean to you?
Yeah, so my personal kind of guarantee to impact that is I make at least 1,000 connections a year. This year we'll probably do
Mm,
more than 5,000 connections. So building a way to personally make that sustainable for myself. I'm also scaling up a connection group, ACES connection group. And in there, it's then not just about me connecting, it's about bringing a community of connectors and givers together to strategically grow each other's networks. And so now we're taking the 1,000 I make and we're amplifying it by hundreds of connections for every member, which really starts to move the needle towards 1 million connections. And I want everyone to really think about that. 1 million genuine conversations, like, what does that create? That
mm,
creates everything. That creates jobs, partnerships, opportunities, deal flow, maybe new friendships, right? Insider circle, masterminds, education. Everything is
mm.
possible through that. And so I continue to wake up every day and figure out, how do I make more connections to more people? How do I empower more people to also make more connections? And how do I bring people together to amplify all of it?
Exactly. That's really awesome. Yeah. Great. So, Devin, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, practical strategies, and the inspiring stories with us today. And I think many of our listeners are walking away with actionable steps to take
back control of their business development. So, dear listeners, if this episode has inspired you, do not forget to share it and leave us a review. Until next time, this is your host Avik reminding you to stay connected, stay strategic, and keep expanding your horizons. So, thank you so much.